Welcome to Beyond Perception, where we as always embark on a journey of self-discovery, today into our nervous system. My name is Simon, and it is my true pleasure to be here today with Yulya Bogdanova. Yulya, you are a nutrition consultant and a stress resilience coach specialized in breathwork, embodiment, cold exposure, and nervous system education. And it is a true joy to be here today with you. Welcome, Yulya.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, very happy to be here. Love talking nervous system stuff.
Yeah, and the two of us, we met by coincidence in Helsinki after the Biohacker Summit just a few weeks ago. And you started sharing a bit about the nervous system, how we can get stuck and fight, flight, but also what to do about it. It was really interesting. And so I thought it would be nice to have a conversation here today. So very excited.
Yeah, me too. Excited to share.
Yeah, and just in the few minutes we talked before, you said you became obsessed about the nervous system. And yeah, maybe as an introduction, like you want to share with us, how did you come to care about the nervous system and why it's important to be also educated about our nervous system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as most of people in helping professions, I came into my first helping profession. Well, actually not my first, because I was a teacher also. Like 9 years ago as a nutrition consultant. I came because I wanted to solve some of my own problems and to optimize my health. And so my weak link was mental health, because I and my family and I myself are very prone to depressions and to just, I never felt quite right in my head. And so, nutrition consulting, those days, it was just like top. And a lot of people thought that you can solve all of your problems with nutrition. And that was me also. And I did a lot of experiments with food. I bought a lot of supplements. But that didn't really lead to a breakthrough for me. So I guess, nutrition is something that people should be caring about, but, something was still missing. So then I went on an expedition with Wim Hof, which is the Iceman from Will. A lot of people heard about him. And that was where, after 2 hours of just hyperventilating in the mountains in Poland, I was like, wow, I felt so euphoric. I was like, this is how my head is supposed to feel. And then so I started digging what I could do, did one certification, but it was quite, they're like, when you get into it was one method, and when you get into different methods, sometimes it's various methods, they just promote some things, for example, techniques, but they can be quite strict. And so after a while, the boundaries were too small for me. So I felt that, I didn't want to stick just to techniques. And then I met my mentor now, Casper, and I started breathwork program with him. And I still do. I'm his level 3 masterful breathwork coach. And that was a big step up and quite a big breakthrough, but still something was missing. And it so happened that I signed up for an embodiment program. And so I was not sure whether I needed to not embodiment, body. I guess it made sense for me because the breath is connected with the body. So maybe that could be, I thought maybe the effect of the breath work could be enhanced by being more in the body. And that started the whole new, opened up a whole new perspective for me on how important it is to be in the body, because a lot of actually breathwork coaches, some that I know, they focus on the breath, but then they forget about the body. And the breath is part of the nervous system, and the body is part of the nervous system. So it's, it's if you don't take into account the whole body from head to toe and just focus on the breath, then you're losing something, losing some connection, and some integration of your, I think of your mind and body is missing. So for me, it really changed things when I embraced myself from head to toe. And it can be scary at times, but then it's really, you really feel at home. It sounds lame a little bit, but it does feel that way. And now, as I told you, I come from Russia. I have lived in Berlin now for 4 years, but for me, the war, Russia's war against Ukraine was quite a hit, and so my nervous regulation took a big hit also. So I was frozen. Probably a lot of people know about our stress responses, like fight, flight, and then if those are not successful, then we go to frozen. So I felt like I was frozen for a couple of months, but then I guess I really was able to take this as an opportunity to learn more and to go into the psychotrauma and deeper nervous system education in the context of the body and of our physiology. So not from the cognitive point of view, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, but what can we do through breath, movement, touch, intention? How can we how can we get in sync with ourselves, the body, integrate the mind and the body, and bring ourselves to this healthy flow of state, of emotional state?
And like, what, I don't know, is it possible to say what's the purpose of the whole nervous system? Is it I mean, what would you say? I from my own little knowledge, I know there are possibly 2 phases on activation and deactivation, or maybe contraction and then expansion, but why is what's the job of the nervous system basically?
So basically this is the nervous system I'm referring to is the autonomic nervous system that helps us survive, because it does a lot of things for us. So all the things that we do without consciously thinking about them are regulated by the autonomic nervous system. Well, we breathe it this way, so we don't forget to breathe. We digest this way, and all our organs function this way, and all the processes in the body. And then our reaction to stress, our stress response, is also governed by the autonomic nervous system, because that's part of the, well, that's the biggest job of the autonomic nervous system, to keep us alive. And basically how it keeps us alive is it helps us survive different kinds of threats, and then we bounce back. So the also the theory of the nervous system that I study, and I guess this is like the default theory of the nervous system regulation. It's called polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges, and he it's the first stage is our default mode of existence, where we feel it's characterized by feeling safe. And this is where life happens. Life happens meaning that this is where we can have fun, sleep, have sex, get really open and intimate and trusting towards others.
So this is natural.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. That's good to emphasize that.
Yeah. So it's kind of the place where we're supposed to live.
Yeah, yeah.
And then from there, we're supposed to react occasionally to threats that come our way. And then it can be fight or flight, where we do something where we can think that we can fight or that we can flee. Basically, some physical action is built into this response. And then the next thing we do, if we're not successful in fighting or flighting or fleeing, and if the tension is too much, because this fight or flight is characterized by increasing heart rate, very fast breathing and stuff like that. If this gets too much physiologically, then we go into the freeze response. And the freeze response is kind of a conservation response. It's where, you know, the nervous system decides that it's too much and that our chances of survival increase if we're just really shut down quickly. That's what it does.
And then like our emotional experience is then tied to like depending on which state we are in, and to say that what we label as positive emotions is basically our natural state, and negative emotions are tied to this reaction.
Yeah, it's and I wouldn't even call them negative emotions, because they, I mean, we consider them negative, but actually they make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this states, they're characterized by different emotions. For example, the stage where we're supposed to live. So this is where we feel joy. We can be curious. We easily learn. Yeah. What else? How else do we feel when we enjoy life? Well, basically, those emotions live there. Yeah. And then, but it gets when we get more tension, then we can feel worry, anger, anxiety. Anxiety, for example, we discussed that it's very widespread nowadays, and this is the flight. Right, when we want to escape. And then when we get up and go to the freeze conservation response, then it's depression, apathy, and basically shutting things down. So our nervous system just, like, you know, in a train, this switch that, you know, shuts down everything inside of us really fast. Actually, the interesting thing is that our relaxation response, it's called parasympathetic response, or parasympathetic nervous system. The freeze response is also parasympathetic. So they're characterized both by just going, slowing things down. But they do it in different ways. So basically, when we are relaxed, it's done in a very gentle manner, and we're just gradually brought down, and can rest and digest and play and have sex, and yeah, being just, and can be open. But then when we are brought down like really abruptly, then yeah, like, yeah, it's characterized, for example, by muscular tension, by a lot of muscular tension. So basically everything just yeah, gets frozen. Your facial expression is really this is where flat face,
like a mask,
like a mask, like you know, sometimes you think about some people, wow, he really, you know, is good at controlling himself, like he doesn't show any emotion. But it's actually...
I can relate to that.
Have you been there?
Yeah. Yeah, many years.
How did it feel?
That was the worst. There was not even a feeling. Yeah, like it seemed that there's no, that there was no. there was nothing I could report as a feeling. It felt very, and I could not even say I felt disconnected, because I thought this is it felt like a machine. Maybe that's the best I can describe it. There was not really some feelings I could feel and then describe.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more like a cold, mechanistic managing of life. Yeah, more like the kind of controlling and forcing me to do things, but it felt not like felt not alive. But I also had no context in the sense. So
yeah,
like I just knew my experience, and I thought, okay, this is how it is. And that's also why it's so interesting to what you just said, to emphasize what is normal or natural, but then also compared to, and I don't want to generalize, but what we find in our society or how we grow up, that there's like a very different normal in terms of maybe default emotions, right? I don't know, what do you think about that?
yeah. I mean, yes, I would probably rather expect that I will be treated with some caution, or that I will not be trusted, rather than people will be open to me. And actually, I was myself not open at all for a long time, and yeah, that was also my reason why I came into the health space. Yeah, but this is like very interesting how our nervous system actually also controls our facial expression. Because how would we say what Stephen Porges, how he calls this first the where the state where we live, the safety, it's meant for socialization. And so, but how do we know that we can socialize with people and that we can trust them? How do you know?
Maybe because it feels good to do so.
Yes, it feels good, yes, but also a lot of information we get from facial expression.
Okay, I get it, yeah.
And from posture.
It brings another perspective on the lockdowns, no social distancing, and
yeah.
hiding your face.
So and this, why this the theory is called polyvagal, because it's regulated. The parasympathetic system is regulated by the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is a cranial nerve that also regulates our facial expression. All the muscles in our face are connected with the vagal nerve. And so, for example, when I feel threatened, I feel unsafe. So how my eyes get focused, the focus is, becomes more narrow, or the muscles in my ears start to, different muscles get tense, and I focus more on the external sounds than on the human voice, for example. And so everything about my face, and also unconsciously about my posture, changes. And we're not trained, we're not taught to recognize it, but at the level of the nervous system, this is something that we read very, very fast. Oh, if we don't read very fast, then there is something wrong with the nervous system. And yeah, that's why every state is also characterized by not only by things like blood pressure changing, breath changing, hormonal balance changing, but also our facial expression and our posture also changes. And this is the frozen state where, you think, oh, this guy, he's so he doesn't care about maybe anything, or he's just so cool, or he's so controlled. But the feeling that we often get close to people like that is that it's a little bit scary. And yeah, just a couple of months ago, I was on a trip and friends of ours were there, and the guy could just tell he was so frozen. So I was, you know, and I know basically already how to deal around frozen people, because I know that it can be intimidating or scary and stuff like that. But it was still hard. I could feel all the time we were together that I wanted to like contract and just get tense. And so, yeah, sometimes we just don't pay attention. If we do, we also notice our reactions to people in different states.
And so natural would be to basically go into these fight, flight, freeze responses, but then also come back from them. And this, like, my question to you is not happening to many people or in our society, but what would you say, that we rather, like, instead of living in the natural, social, engaged, like joyful expression, like we seem, that's my my question or my hypothesis is, like, we seem to be a little bit elevated into a continuous living in fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah. So basically the healthy flow or the health system regulation, we're supposed to live in this stage where we're open and can socialize and relax, rest, digest. And then we kind of get out to defend ourselves, and then we get back and we return to, you know, having fun and being curious and playful. But as we can see nowadays, the nervous system regulation, it can change. So we get stuck in different states. We get stuck either in fight or flight or in the freeze response. And that's nowadays is something that characterizes psychotrauma, right? So when you're stuck for a long time in one state, then your nervous system couldn't adapt. So basically, even how the stress response works is, what's the purpose of the stress response? It's to enable us to react to a threat, and then to bring us back to the feeling of safety. And on the level of the nervous system, there is, you know, the so-called procedural memory, for example, or you know, different mechanisms that wait till this response gets completed. So it's like, when you feel scared, you should get back to feeling safe, or it feels like a job that is on print, but there is no paper. So it's kind of gets stuck there, because the nervous system, for example, you want to fight something. It's like you're so pissed up with someone that you like feel. So this is something quite physical, because when you feel you want to fight or flight, you have special motor neurons that actually, you know, like kind of give you charge. That physical also tension that you should be using. But then, so you left a lot of things unsaid, you left a lot of feelings unexpressed, emotions unexpressed, and you know, you never brought yourself back to the safety consciously. So you never felt after that situation that you were again happy, again curious, again relaxed. And so all this charge in the nervous system, it didn't finish its cycle of the protective response. And so this is how stress gets accumulated, or you get stuck in one place, because you just never finish the response. And then the more you get stuck in this stage, the more accumulated stress you have. And then you get accumulated stress from everyday life. You also get accumulated stress from some traumatic events. I don't know, you get into an accident or you move or you get divorced or something like that. But then also you get this accumulated stress when you had, for example, adverse childhood. And adverse childhood, I don't even mean to be abused, or neglected, just some of your biological needs were not taken care of. And so these three types of stress, they just accumulate all the time, and then they get supported by, by the loneliness that we nowadays face, right? And it started COVID, but I guess it started even before COVID, and also by this constant, stream of information that if we don't control it, we feel like, wow. This world is a really scary place, and I better continue protecting myself. And so from there, actually, we cannot rely on the nervous system to return to the healthy regulation on its own. And, we should obtain a manual, use a manual, and understand how to use it properly.
And I would also assume, or maybe that's my experience, that the more you get stuck, maybe in fight, flight, but then freeze, the less and less you actually fear. So the less and less you're like, I mean, that's my experience, or was my experience, that the less and less like recognition of what's actually going on in your body, and maybe disassociation or disconnection to even feeling your body might happen, and that makes it even more difficult to get your head around where you actually are, and that there's a possibility maybe to also do something about it.
Yeah, like an example, an everyday example, a lot of people actually come across, but maybe don't realize, is something that they call email apnea. Have you heard about email apnea?
No. I think I have heard, but I could not.
But this is basically holding, unconsciously holding your breath while reading emails, because this is. So why it happens? I mean, a lot of different things can happen. You can hold your breath unconsciously, or you can just disregard any signs that you want to drink, to pee, to move, to stretch, anything. So because you are so focused on anything, on your work, on the external, all your attention is there, that you forget about the body. And then actually, with this email apnea, what's interesting, that you hold your breath that for such a long time, that then when you realize that you have been holding your breath, you'll really feel it on the verge of panic, because so much CO2, and CO2 is called a stress molecule. So much CO2 has accumulated that is like. And then you may not even realize that why you felt this surge of, panic, fear was related to you unconsciously holding your breath. And so, this disconnection, it's like we live here all the time. And actually, this is where 80% of the information flow is generated for our nervous system. Like the vagus nerve sends 80% from bottom to the top, and only 20 for executing, based on the state of things. Yeah. And
is this, I believe this is what you call the sixth sense, like an awareness for internal
Interoception. It's called Interception.
Interception.
Yeah, and it's the awareness of your own sensations and emotions. And so basically, if you ask different people, well, what's happening in your body right now with the sensations and emotions, most of the people say, everything fine, okay. And yeah, but then actually there is a lot of stuff going on every single second. And well, we're supposed to make conscious decisions based on this information on the one hand, but on the other hand, you know, it's also like the gut feeling, how, you know, this physiological basis of the gut feeling and of your intuition, you kind of collect information from internally, from from internal sources and external sources. And kind of you just feel what's going on here, and you're not surprised by the emotion that's generated here then. And you know what you like, what you dislike, what you want, what you don't want. Because nowadays, actually, it's also a question that I get a lot. I work with women mostly. And like quite a big thing in my community, at least, is it's like, yeah, I have no idea what I want. Even what I want to order at a restaurant, I just have no idea, and I don't know how to tell, right? Then I have also a couple of friends who were in psychotherapy, and after some traumatic experiences, and then they were recommended to, well, just do something for yourself, do something that, you know, brings whatever pleasure. It's like, what do you want?
I know that exactly. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah. What do I want? I have no clue what I want. Yeah. So, and how are you supposed to know? I mean, you cannot just, then if you rely on your cognitive brain to know what you, I mean, it has no basis, right? You just like imagining things, or you know, provoking another thought cycle. But then you're supposed to know what you want, what you like, what you dislike, from just feeling it. There is yes, there is no, there is I don't want it, there is I want it. Yeah. And actually there is a guy also, Gabor Mate. Do you know him?
Yes, not personally, but
no, have you heard of that?
Yes,
So he's making a case that this is what's also called authenticity, when you are connected to your inner sensations, and then you can express yourself this way, and you actually use it. It works the same way as your immune system, the emotions, because also you just feel what you need more of, and you feel what you don't want more of. And then, you know, all this work, like when you know, protecting your space and stuff like that, it becomes more natural. Right? From whatever toxic people, toxic, you know, whatever places or something. It's like you just know you don't want to be here, and or you want to be here and with these people, and it's somehow when you have this intrinsic feeling, it's like you feel it with your body, it's much easier to act on it than if you, like when in psychotherapy, right, they teach you, well, then, you know, how about you just say no, or say these words, or, you know, what do you think? And if you just feel it with your body, then, you know, you just kind of do it most of the time. It still, of course, requires an effort.
So from your experience, is then to heighten one's awareness for internal sensations is the bridge to kind of come out of a frozen state, for example, or to come more into that natural flow again?
Yeah. Well, strong emotions, I mean, they come for a reason. So to get out of the frozen state, you're supposed to know how to release your anger, or how to safely feel the anger and the hate and to express it also physically. Yeah, because, well, we touched just, briefly on negative versus positive emotions. But positive emotions, it's just, the ones that are comfortable, I guess, and negative emotions are the ones that are uncomfortable. And we instinctively want to get away from them. And we're encouraged actually to get away from them because you're angry, how can you be angry? Just,
Possibly that makes them negative, no?
Yeah.
But we start thinking they are not okay.
And just, just forgive him. He didn't mean anything. Or, you don't have a right to be angry or to be pissed. And yes, but of course we do. This is how, this is like biological, right? And yeah, so frozen state is characterized by this helplessness where the nervous system feels that it couldn't really protect you. That's why it brought about the conservation response. And so you need to feel that you can protect yourself, and then feeling or safely expressing anger, hatred, whatever. Actually, it's very important. But you need to have the capacity of the nervous system to do so, because if you are in a shutdown state, if you're in a weak state, then it might be too overwhelming. But yeah.
So you need to release that charge, which is basically suppressed. That would be my interpretation. And you also need a safe container so that you actually can return to safety, or what you described before, and not that you get lost in maybe a very traumatic or depressed state and cannot find your way out of it anymore.
Yeah. So basically it starts with training your nervous system to feel safe. Just focusing on how safety feels internally and externally, because our nervous system gets used to the feeling of danger, threat, and it gets easier. And actually there is some this neuroplasticity of our brain. It supports it, because the more we feel something, the more effort or space of the brain is given to this, to feeling something. So we need just to train our body, brain together to feel safe again. And then when we found this feeling of safety that we can end those stressful reactions with, then we can train yourself and go a little bit into uncomfortable zones. Just with breath or with touch or with movement. And then come back to safety, and then get bigger and bigger and release more and more.
And would you say that, I've heard that before, that the body releases only what you're capable of handling in that specific moment, or is that nonsense?
No, I think you can get re-traumatized easily. Actually, I have. I had some trauma in my life that also inspired me to learn about it. And then I did get re-traumatized a couple of times, just even from intensive physical touch, like training for Thai massage, for example. No, I think actually you need just to be very, very careful, and whoever you work with should be also very gentle, not to overstep the boundaries.
And you made like when we talk before we started recording, you made a few references to also, like for example, the concept of mass formation, which was brought up by Professor Desmet, I believe last or 2 years ago, which is basically about a state of hypnosis which you are in, but or many, he makes the claim that a majority or a big proportion of our society right now with what is happening in regards to the lockdowns and also the war now is in a state of hypnosis. The tricky thing is, if you are in that, you don't know that you are under hypnosis. No? And you shared also, maybe you can share a bit about that, how that concept fits into your understanding of the nervous system.
Mm-hmm. So basically the steps, and correct me because I know the first 2 steps, that people get lonely, really lonely, they can get anxious, and then that's why they get easily manipulated by the system, and that's why every idea that to them feels like it can be related to their anxiety, and that it can elevate their anxiety. They just go for this idea, but it actually doesn't make them less lonely. It just because they're not supporting each other and they're not forming communities, but they just I guess get quite focused on this one idea, right, and get quite intolerant to any other ideas. And yes, for me, so he talks about it in the context of the COVID times, but also he mentions that when one idea goes away, then the next one can come if those conditions stay the same, right? Feeling lonely and anxious. And that's how most of the people feel nowadays. That's exactly, I think, because they're stuck in this fight or flight response, and anxiety is this feeling where you feel really uncomfortable, you want to escape. On the other hand, you feel disconnected from your body, so you have no clue why you want to escape, but something is really wrong. And then you find this idea that may just explain things, why you're feeling this way. And then any idea can work. It can be, for example, as in Russia nowadays, where a lot of people, quite unexpectedly for me in Russia, just, they just really mass hypnosis where they totally believe, that they were protecting some Ukrainians or whatever, this complete just nonsense. But really, from talking to people that I know, I actually don't go, into political discussions, but I can feel that they really believe it. And this is just so, and it's impossible to convince them otherwise, I guess. Well, when the other idea comes along, then this idea, I guess, loses its power. And that's also, I think, how, the Russians are treated nowadays, right? All this like, it must be you people who are to blame. And yeah, but also I'm not sure whether it's politically correct to bring up the topic that we also discussed in the gender topic, or is it okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah, sure.
Just a week ago, I saw this movie, What is a Woman? And it's basically one journalist asking different people or different experts of what is a woman. And there is psychotherapists or different doctors, researchers, professors. And basically what they talk about is that a lot of kids nowadays feel what they call dysphoria, gender dysphoria, where kids are not comfortable with their own body and with the genitalia. And I was very good. Well, I recommend this movie actually to watch if we're into this topic. I was curious what they consider gender dysphoria, and so the first definition on Google, it's characterized by anxiety, and I guess it's the same thing, and it's where the kids, they don't feel themselves, they feel anxious, and they just want to get to a safe place. But, you know, safe place, if there are several people, for example, who specialize in different things, then they can offer different places that they would consider safe for these kids. And one of them would be in the States right now, like surgical procedures, or what they call chemical castration, because the hormones that they use now on the teenagers to stop the puberty are the same as the hormones used on like prison inmates for chemical castration. And so you just, what you want to achieve is quite understandable. You just want to feel safe and comfortable, and you want to feel joy and be curious and open and playful, but instead you feel anxious and you don't know why. And yeah, oftentimes it's not helping. And I'm not saying that there are, you know, people who really you know, really need to change maybe their gender, or it's, but I think for the kids at least, they should be allowed to reach, you know, more or less adult 18 or something, whatever, when yeah, until they make this decision, and different options should be considered. Yeah.
Would you say that if you are in that fight, flight, freeze response, or like, for example, experience anxiety or other emotions, but you cannot process them, you cannot like discharge them, but so you're not feeling all right, but you're kind of disconnect. So in that state, you are prone to ideas, concepts, explanations from the outside, and you just have a rational capacity to analyze, but you cannot feel the truth or motivation behind it anymore. So you might go with something which you maybe, if you could feel yourself, would not actually want to do.
Yeah, well, you are not sure what you want to do, because you know, all this, you shut down a lot of the information that comes from your body. So how are you supposed to know what to do, or how to feel, or whether it's safe or not safe? Well, this is where that interception comes in, where we just know, because there are a lot of stuff going on in our bodies all the time, a lot of different sensations, why, you know, we move this way or that way, or we get tense, or get you know, closed or open, stuff like that. But then you don't know, and this is you know, locked up. You don't feel it. You live here, and I guess you can imagine whatever, right? Living only in your head. You can imagine any dangers lurking, or you can imagine that you're going to be happy if you only do this surgery, or if you only move to another place, or if you only, I don't know, get another job. But actually maybe not. I mean, with jobs, of course, can be different.
So would you say that the only way is like sooner or later go through these like emotions which are maybe some kind of like you're disconnected to, like to feel them and to through that discharge them, so to reconnect yourself with yourself?
Yeah. And actually, yes, because the emotions, they're there for a purpose. They want their purpose is to save you, of course. Why do you fear something? Yeah, because it's logical to fear, because when there is uncertainty, you fear something. And why do you get angry? Well, you also want to protect yourself. And so when you don't follow up and you ignore them or you suppress those emotions, then they're going to be hanging there as that, unfinished printer job, basically. And but what actually, on the other side, it's interesting that if you just kind of embrace this discomfort of your emotion, and when you find the capacity to just be with the emotion, it will go away really fast. Because it's like, hey, I have a message for you. Hey, I have a message for you. I was like, shut up, shut up, shut up. I was like, hey, I have a message for you. And it bangs you on the head. And then this like, okay, I got it. But you just can react to the first message. Many times it's just enough when you feel discomfort to really try and relax not relax, it's difficult to relax, but just feel your body from toe to the head, and just say, well, I stay with this for 20 seconds and then see what happens. Most of the time, then in 20 seconds, already gone. But your nervous system is really happy because actually, it knows now that you hear the nervous system signals.
Okay, so like if I feel anger and I want to punch someone, so I must not necessarily follow that impulse to satisfy my nervous system. I can actually punch someone but it's all right to acknowledge and to accept that message and to feel that anger, but I don't need to react.
Different scenarios. Actually, at one point you would need to relax and you would need to give some physical release. And some things, for example, with breath work that you can do. This is where if you just really want to vent your anger or something, is to do some hyperventilating, moving. And just want to add some kicking or something, some muscular tension. But sometimes it's just not necessary. Yeah, it depends. Then, but the closer you get to your sensations, the more you kind of feel whether you need really to get physical about it or whether just accepting it is going to do it.
And then, like, breath work, you mentioned it before, that would be a method to step into those unprocessed emotions and to release them in one way.
Yes, and that's how Wim Hof method became so popular, because it really gives you this sense of euphoria because you did have a release. It's just, you need to be very careful with the intensity that you go to. For example, I did, when I just was starting with breath work, I would have some women who were in my gentle weight loss programs, and then there was also breath work. And then one time I suggested this woman that we just, she will feel relaxed. Now I show her some breath, and it was inhale for 4 seconds and exhale for 4 seconds. And that was so much for her that she nearly went into panic attack. So it very much depends. The intensity that breath work is going to create depends on your nervous system, and it also on what state you're in, how much stress you have accumulated. Because if you do too much intensity, then it may just throw you back, and it may be too much. I've had that also, where it just, was too much for me. It's better to have slow, but without, really big throwbacks, than to go fast.
So is it really about checking in with your own nervous system, which might be very fragile, and then step by step building it up to be able to process or withstand kind of more and more charge in that sense? So.
Actually, it starts with very boring things. It's also, when people come, they often expect some challenging stuff, because that's how we, I guess, are supposed to deal with, whatever, self-development, or that's how we're supposed to overcome some difficulties to get better.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, so what do I do now? How do I breathe? Show me this and this. And then, there is very basic things at the beginning where you just pay attention, like 5 times during the day, where you are, what's the environment outside of you. It's called orienting, and this is like one of the 5 parts of our stress response. And do this with curiosity, and then just notice the position of your body in this place, and any sensations. And so then what we discussed also, how you pay attention during the day, when you hold your breath, for example, or just following your, like meeting your basic needs that we usually forget about, like peeing on time, drinking, eating if we are hungry, or like even yawning. Yawning is one of the things that really resets your nervous system, and we usually and again, another printing job not finished. So really simple things like that, if if we practice them for even 2 weeks, we already notice a difference. And then the capacity of the nervous system to take the stress and to respond increases, and then we start to add more challenges.
Yulya, thank you so much. Yeah, that was really, really interesting, and also very helpful to connect many things I have heard with with new perspectives in a, like now I have a picture in my mind, which connects a few things. So Yulya, I don't know, is there something else you want to share with our listeners? I will, of course, add your webpage and resources to find you and get in touch with you, like to the show notes of this episode. Is there something else you want to share with our audience?
I think maybe one thing that, we often hope that something outside of us changes, or people, something or somebody around us, changes, but really we only have control over ourselves. And but this is where the most power actually is, because when something changes inside of you, and you do it not because you overcome something, because you fight for it, because you just, really train to change things, but it just changes because it finds finally the flow, the natural flow inside of you, then it's really, I think, the biggest change. Everything and everyone around you then changes also. I've experienced it myself, and I've heard from other people that also confirms it. So I just wish everybody to, to find and reconnect with this inner flow that's in us already.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, there's Yeah, really not anything to add. Yeah, that's a perfect closing, Mark. So thank you again, Yulya, for being here with us, and thank you for listening and watching this, for being open and curious minded. Yeah, all the best, and see you next time. Fokus schafft Realität, das haben wir alles schon mal gehört, aber was bedeutet das genau? Ja, das heißt, dass wir ursächlich sind für unsere Lebenserfahrung, für jeden einzelnen Moment, ob wir glücklich, freudig, erfüllt oder vielleicht gestresst, ängstlich, frustriert sind. Ja, unser Fokus entscheidet, denn er schafft unsere Erfahrung. Es hört sich vielleicht simpel an, aber ja, die Frage ist, wie funktioniert das? Ja, worauf sind wir tatsächlich fokussiert und wie können wir unseren Fokus vielleicht ein Stück weit weiter schärfen, um statt auf Angst und Mangel, externe Bedingungen gerichtet zu sein, ganz bewusst den Fokus zu setzen auf das, was wir wahrhaftig sind und lieben, ja, was uns Freude bereitet, um eben genau mehr davon in unser Leben zu bringen und wirklich kreativ und inspiriert zu leben. Ja, und diesen Fragen werden wir uns im Seminar Strukturelle Kreativität widmen und auf den Grund gehen. Wer neugierig ist und sich angesprochen fühlt, der sei hierzu herzlich eingeladen. Ja, mehr Informationen findet ihr über diesen Link. Lasst uns die spannende Entdeckungsreise beginnen. Ich freue mich.